various weather as well as taking all your live questions. Those questions can.
No one heard you. No one heard you.
Is it live?
Yeah, it's on. Start over again. Just start. No one heard your introduction.
Hey, everybody, welcome into this week's edition, the live edition of Tony's Spot on Fishing. We are live. Blue Bright Michaels Entertainment presents Tony's Spot on Fishing, the live edition. Something a little different for everybody this week. Gives us an opportunity to talk to everybody, interact with our fans. We can do some questions and answers. We're also going to discuss some various topics, the conditions around the Chicagoland area. And of course, we'll get you all geared up for the king salmon season. We are going to be taking questions via Facebook, facebook.com/spotonfishing, and of course through our YouTube chat as well. You can submit your questions throughout the live show. So sit back, relax. We're live this time. Tony's Spot on Fishing. So let's talk about this right away here, guys and girls. The weather around Chicagoland has been insane over these last couple weeks, really. Between the heat, the humidity that we've been having, the storms that have been coming through has just wreaked havoc on the fishing conditions. Let's start with the heat, first of all, especially for a lot of the musky guys out there. Obviously, this really affects the river more so than any other body of water. Moving water will actually warm faster than stationary water, such as a lake or a pond or anything like that. So these water temps have been going up. They get to that 80-degree mark, and it's not safe to fish muskies at that point. They will actually suffer from what we call post-release death syndrome. The muskies are not able to absorb an acid that forms when we're fighting them. So that warmer water temp, they can't reabsorb that acid. When we go to release them, even though they may look to swim off just fine, they're actually not. They within 24 hours, they may actually die. So we don't want to be fishing muskies with these water temps approaching the 80-degree mark, even for guys that are up on the chain. I know a lot of the guides up that way have been really keeping a close eye on it. Same with Shabanaw. We had a little bit of a cool down today. We're out of that 90-degree stuff with the 100+ heat indexes. So hopefully that'll start to drop water temperatures down a little bit. The storms, my goodness gracious. Think about how much rain we've gotten over the last week or so. It's unbelievable. We've had thunderstorms, torrential downpours. It's really messed with a lot of the river conditions. The DuPage River is definitely up. We've been scouting, looking around the Warrenville area, even down in Plainfield, and conditions just have not been favorable or safe to get out and do that. Also, we've had the Fox River as well. We were even looking to possibly get out there and film some more, and it's just not a safe thing. So anytime you're dealing with any of these rivers, be extremely cautious out there. The water conditions with all this rain, supposed to get some more on Tuesday and Wednesday this week. We'll see what happens. But it has made things tough, to say the least. We've had a lot of people looking to us for some answers. Guys just had a tough bite. It will be. Front after front after front has made things very tough everywhere. And think about just how this whole year has gone down. We had fish spawning on Jericho, and the usual spawning techniques or tactics didn't work, the baits we would throw. We ended up having to go to a live bait situation. Look at the topwater stuff. When we've been out throwing plastic spinner baits, various moving baits, and we actually needed that fish calling power of our topwaters for the topwater bass show we did. It's really wreaked havoc this whole season. Even when we had the very first show we launched this season, where we were ice out muskies with Ben and Dave from Mammoth Custom Lures. and you think about all the ice that we've had building up on our rods there, and fish were actually moving in very cold conditions. And it was almost as if Mother Nature knew this warm up was coming and it was coming quick. And regardless of what the actual true temps and air conditions and water conditions favored, we had fish moving like it was nobody's business out there. So everything has seemed to have started early. Now, hopefully that transitions into the fall run, and that we get into the end of August and things will start going. Not only again we can start fishing muskies, but of course the king salmon run. Hopefully that'll be a little more favorable. We're actually going to have more information on that a little later on. Bussey Lake, of course, we have our mini series that we are currently producing on Bussey. We said we were going to come back a few times this year and fish it. We still are. We don't want anyone to think that we've abandoned that. We're going to do it. Right now we're waiting for favorable weather. Of course, the way our scheduling works here with Spot On Fishing, to get our camera crews and everything together, we only have one day, sometimes two per week, 2 days per week that we can actually go out and film. And we have to base everything off of weather, viewer requests that are coming in for other bodies of water to fish. So there's a lot involved, you know. And right now with the high water temps, we do want to focus not only on bass, but on muskies on Bussey. And due to the issues we have with the water temperatures, we are going to rest it for just a little bit more. Once things calm down and we get favorable water temperatures, of course, we will definitely be back on Bussey and bring you hopefully a few shows from late summer, early fall, and even just before ice up. And we may even ice fish it this season as well. There's a great ice fishing opportunity out on Bussey. We'll just have to see how the winter plays out and if we actually get some safe ice this year. So let me tell you, we're going to step aside for 1 second. When we come back, we are going to talk king salmon right now. That's right, we're getting geared up. The king salmon episodes will be coming up pretty soon. And we will have all the tricks, tips, and techniques. It's live on how to catch these king salmon.
You're back.
We are back here. Let's talk about these kings here and just some of the gear, the equipment we're going to need, and what we can do to go out and catch these fish. Now, time of year, it depends. There's a lot of different things. Of course, water temperature is the first thing. You know, we want cooler water temps more than anything. 55 and below are generally favorable. We have caught kings in as warm as 60 degrees at times. But generally speaking, we want to look at when that moon phase, the full moon, comes in, that last part of August, and of course the first part of September. What can we do to get these water temperatures down quicker? Well, we got to hope for west winds. West winds are what is going to push out the warm water. When the winds from the west come over, it pushes that surface water out, and it blows all that warm water right out, and it brings in the cold water from underneath. And that circulation, it can bring food in, it'll bring the kings in. And of course, the moon phase itself triggers the salmon to actually come up and start their spawning run. So, where are we fishing for these fish? Well, generally speaking, we're going to talk a lot about Chicago. Of course, 95th Street, Burnham Harbor, Diversey, and Montrose are our favorites. 95th Street, we've had some success with the kings, being one of the more southern points of Lake Michigan and southern harbors. It's not hot and heavy on my list, but we have caught fish down there. It's great in the spring for the coho run as well as even for some browns. But 95th is great. There's easy parking. You can walk right down to the water and get to fishing. Burnham, there's a few different options for Burnham. We can park in the planetarium lot. If you can use the meters on the street, you can do that. You can go into Henry's in the city and actually get the parking permit and park in the fisherman's lot at Burnham. And a lot of water to cover both lakeside and in the harbor at Burnham in the fall for those kings. Diversity has been very good for us, of course. Our king salmon one episode and our spoon-fed king episode as well were shot at Diversity. The nice thing about Diversity is it doesn't get as much pressure. Has some nice access to some deeper holes right near the mouth of the harbor, and we've caught them morning, daytime, and in the evening out at Diversity. Nice parking situation there. You have a little lot, and you can pay to park at the lots there, and then literally just come right on down under the bridge to the water and access quite a bit of good water right there lakeside at Diversity. Also, Montrose is probably one of the more popular harbors. Probably one of the biggest reasons is plenty of free parking. Now, plenty of free water to fish as well too. We've caught them all the way from the mouth all the way down to what we call the horseshoe. And it's actually just a walkway that jets out into the Lake Michigan and creates just that, a little horseshoe, which gives you access again to another nice little deep water pool. So plenty of water at Montrose. Don't freak out if you pull up and there's a lot of that street parking is taken. You'll be able to still have plenty of water to fish out in that direction. Now, one of the comments and questions we had received from Ted Zimmerman was actually asking about the numbers, the low numbers of king salmon. Well, it's not what it used to be. I'd be a bold-faced liar if I said it's nothing to worry about. The stocking numbers, of course, are way down on the kings, and you know, it is what it is. And 2 years ago, we had favorable winds. The water temperatures were great. We had a lot of fish in the city. 2 years ago was a fantastic king run for Chicago. Is it as good as the years past? Not so much, but from what we've been dealing with, it was a very good, nice change of pace. The kings are going to follow that colder water. If there's more west winds in Kenosha and Milwaukee and up north, Racine, obviously we're going to see more fish go up that way, which is exactly what happened last year. Last year, in my opinion, was a horrible city run. But we heard great reports coming from up north that it wasn't that bad. So there's always options, you know, to leave the city and go look at some of these places up north. But we have to see what Mother Nature is going to give us as far as the water temperatures. Rods and reels are something we want to talk about. And going out there with the right tackle is going to help your chances tremendously. Long rods, true salmon rods, 8'6", medium heavy. You can do spinning or bait casting. Anything from Browning, St. Croix, the Daiwa rods are very good as well. 8'6" medium heavy gives you good casting distance. They have a little bit of a softer tip to them, but plenty of backbone. Now the thing is, there's so much bone and cartilage in the king salmon's mouth that we really cannot penetrate always that hook completely through. We may only get it just in the fleshy parts or partially into that bone or cartilage. That little softer tip will actually help us to keep from ripping those hooks right out of the king's mouth. And yet we have the backbone to turn that fish, fight that fish, and bring them into the net. Now, reels. If we're running spinning tackle, we definitely are going to want a larger capacity reel. Fluger makes some excellent ones, be it the Supremes, the President Series, they're 40 size. From Shimano, you know, be it the Sahara, the Sedona, Symmetry Stratic, whatever price point you would like, in their 4,000 size. Some that we can have a lot of good line capacity to. As I said, we can do it with bait casting gear as well. These baits that we're going to show you and talk about are plenty heavy. We can run anything in a bait caster from the Daiwa Lexas, Garcia's, the Toro series, the winch, the Johnny Morris reels from Bass Pro Shops in a lower gear ratio. We definitely would like to try to keep it in a 5.1 to 1. We don't want to go too fast with a bait caster. We don't want to go out there with a 7 1 to 1, or you could probably get by with a 6.3 or 6.4 to 1. But that 5 to 1, it gives you a slower gear ratio because we're not really cranking that fast. And here's the thing about gear ratios. The faster the gear ratio is, the smaller the teeth are on the gears on your reel. So let's just say we got a 7 to 1 gear ratio. So these gears are going to be extremely small and tiny, but there's going to be a ton of them. So we can turn that gear and turn that spool faster. But now look, just using my fingertips, I don't have much gripping power there. When we go to that higher or that lower gear ratio, those gears are bigger, the teeth are cut bigger, and now we can't even get those fingers to move. The gears won't move. We have a little more power to it as well. Pardon me. Let's talk about line. Monofilament. I'm not a fan of braid. You know, I know 90% of these kings we catch are reaction strikes, but I've had my butt handed to me far too many times by guys throwing mono down there when I'm trying to run braid. Lake Michigan, especially under west winds, can get extremely clear, and I do feel the braid will hurt you. Now you can go through and run a fluorocarbon leader to it. You can tie it in. I've never had an issue running mono. We run P-Line CX. It's a fluorocarbon coated monofilament, good abrasion resistance along the rocks, decent, not a lot of stretch, still has a little bit of give to it. Also, we've been playing around over the years with just the Bass Pro Excel mono. It's been very good. Color line is something we get asked quite a bit. A lot of guys think clear mono is the way to go. Clear monofilament's not really clear. It's actually white in color. Your low-vis green is actually a translucent line. The light will pass through it the easiest. It's not completely invisible like a fluorocarbon, but it does have less visibility. So 12-pound test, low-vis green will set you up for the line, be it spinning or bait casting. Let's talk about a handful of the baits here really quick. And spoons. Right off the bat, when that run's first starting, there's not much else I'm going to be throwing but a spoon. And there's a handful of different ones we can run. And actually, one of my favorites, the KO Wobbler. Now we can throw it in blue and silver, green and silver. It's 3/4 of an ounce. Has a much wider wobble to it. Has a little clicker on it as well. Makes a little noise. A lot of flash. Sun is out. Throw the chrome. If you're fishing at night, glow in the dark. Get a little flasher, a little camera flash. We can pop it on there, get a good glow going, and we can get these fish going all night long. That's the beautiful part about king fishing. They go all night long, and the glow in the dark spoons really help. Also, we've done well, little Cleos. Again, 3/4 ounce. The Cleo's a little bit longer of a spoon, has a little tighter wobble to it, but it's not as wide of a wobble as that KO has, but it still gives you a little bit of different flash, a little different vibration. Blue silver, green silver, of course. And the last spoon we're going to talk about is actually the crocodile spoon, and it's the longest one. Now what's kind of nice is real early on in that run, when they're still actually feeding, if there's alewives that they've pushed up with it, that's about the size of those alewives. They're just long and thin like that, and we can really mimic an alewife with a spoon like that. Never tie direct to a spoon. That is one of the worst things you can do. You're going to get line twists. Because as these spoons are going, now they're going to wobble back and forth, but every once in a while that thing's going to turn over. Well, if you don't have a snap swivel or a straight swivel, you're going to get a bunch of line twists. So we can actually just run a good snap swivel to it. What I prefer to do is just a ball bearing swivel and hook that split ring right to it. You don't have the weak spot of the snap swivel then. That's a very good way to do it. Quickly, we're going to talk about some of the crankbaits. Cranks I like, especially once the kings have been in a little bit. Maybe they're sitting in those holes just outside the mouths of the harbor areas, and they've seen the spoons. They're really not in a feeding mood, and this is when we really have to trigger them, that aggression strike. The kings become very territorial. They don't want anything around them. They don't want nothing getting in their way as they're coming in, and their instinct is to kill, and we need something that's going to get their attention. Something that's going to have make a lot of noise, have a lot of vibration. My number one go-to bait during that time of year is from Storm. It's the magwort. It's a big bodied crankbait, real loud rattles to it, tremendous vibration, makes a lot of noise, brighter colors, fire tigers, blackened chartreuses, things of that nature. Of course, very good baits. Once those kings have started to come in a little shallower, we'll downsize it a little bit when they're on the inside. Rather than throwing that big magwort around, we'll actually go to the wiggle wart. It's a little bit smaller, same style bait, but a smaller size, but we're still getting the good rattles to it, but a little less vibration, a little more subtle. We don't need it to be too crazy. Once those fish are inside, they're going to hone in on this thing a lot easier. We've caught so many big kings later in the year on baits this size. It's unbelievable. And then, of course, back and better than ever from Berkeley, the frenzy baits. For years working in all the various tackle shops, everybody wants frenzies. Berkeley frenzies. And flicker shads, of course. And for so long, they just weren't available. Well, they're back, and they're better than ever. And these are king catching machines. Again, brighter colors, and any of the shad bodies, the flicker shads, we've caught them on. Phenomenal crankbaits. And we just wanted to showcase those couple to you. Obviously, there's the most known, of course, being Rattle Traps Red Eye Shads, as well as your Reef Runners, Storm Thunder Sticks, things of that nature. The last thing we want to talk about is the most crucial in this whole setup, because we got the rods, the reels, the lines, all of this. We hook the fish. How do we get them up that big wall? You need a big net. That's what you need. So when you run these big nets with these big handles, we're going to actually show you a picture here of that. These nets with the long extendable handles, actually that's the Ranger net there. These guys, we can cover anything from the 8-foot walls that we're in, extend them out, and once we can scoop that fish, when we pull it up, we don't want to just actually lift it, up by the handles. We'll actually turn it and pull it straight up. And that is the only way you can really land these fish from shore. You got to actually throw these things, these big nets out there. Otherwise, it's just not going to happen. Can't boat flip them or wall flip them for that matter. But anyway, everybody, we are quickly running out of time here in our first ever live edition of Tony's Spot on Fishing. And once again, we said we want to try this out. Blue Brian Michaels Entertainment, the production company that produces this great show every week for everyone, wanted to do this. We will be looking to further this down the road, even bringing up a live panel show where we're going to have various experts from around the area being able to answer your questions and talk fishing with everybody. So that is it for this week. I don't know about you. I am ready for the salmon run. I cannot wait for the end of August or September to get here. I want to get out there. I want to get catching these fish. It is the most fun thing we can do here in the Chicagoland area. Once again, everybody, my name's Tony Krizek. Thank you so much for watching this special live edition, and we'll see you next week on Tony's Spot on Fishing.